Welcome back to the Joseph Graham Show. Today I'm with Preston Ely. Now, here's the cool thing. You've seen George Bryan on here probably about 3 times. I met him 3 years ago. He's one of the reasons why I started this podcast. Preston said, or George said I had to meet Preston and made this connection. So this is kind of like the first time me and Preston have really gotten to talk a lot. I did look at his page a little bit. As you know, on this show, I don't really deep dive until I get to know the person because I'd rather hear it from the horse's mouth. So, Preston, tell us a little bit about yourself, who you help, and what you do.
Where would you like to begin? When
Wherever
I,
you want to go.
when I
We're
was,
open book
it
here.
all it all started when I was 2 years old. Um, I don't know, man. I don't really do well open-ended questions like that.
Well,
Um,
I'll ask you a better question then. I looked on your page. You say that you help men get to 6 figures and become their best versions of themselves. How do you do that? Because that's the question. So a lot of people here that listen are sales professionals. They're also business owners, and 75% of the people on my podcast are men
okay,
or
so
that
what I
listen
think
to it.
what I think that says specifically is I help men reclaim their identity, build six-figure um, brands while building purposeful personal brands. So what I do is I work with men who tend to be 40, 50 years old or so, successful, normally high performing. They tend to be Christian men. Um, and I'm helping them either prevent or rebuild from some sort of midlife crisis of some sort. It's usually some sort of existential, you know, who am I?
Hmm.
Kind of vocational identity crisis. And the reason I do this is because I just went through it. And at the heart of it is at the heart of most men, at the heart of their problems right now is this question mark in their minds and in their spirits of who am I? Why am I here? What am I supposed to be doing? Because what I'm doing right now doesn't feel good,
Hmm.
right? Even if they have it all together. Um, but for appearance's sake, on the outside, inside, they're miserable, lonely, feel like nobody understands them. Sometimes they don't really enjoy what they're doing, but they're trapped. The trappings of success, right? That's a real thing. You know, if you set out in life to become successful, if that's your thing, and that was my thing, right? Well, what happens when you get it,
Hmm.
right? Um, Most men, once they get it, it's not enough. It wasn't for me. I had 5 different businesses, 2 SaaS companies, a couple different fitness centers. I had a record deal with Atlantic Records. We had a reality show that was getting shopped around. You name it, I had it. Two homes, mansion, penthouse, wife, kids. And it wasn't until I had my children, which was the last missing piece of my mental puzzle, of my mental picture of when I have this is the life that I'm going for, right? And even God was one of the check marks, right? I was doing a lot of good for a lot of people, right? Um, but it wasn't enough.
Yeah.
It wasn't
Yeah.
enough. And for most men, it's never enough. When you get to the top, you realize there is nothing there. And so you have a couple different options at that point. You can self-medicate, which is what about 75% of high performing entrepreneurs are doing with
Hmm.
porn, sex, drugs, alcohol. You know, a lot of men consider themselves social drinkers, right? Every day. Right? They drink socially every single day. Seems
Yeah.
okay
Yeah.
because that's what we see on TV and that's what we see around us, right? But really, what are we doing? We're
Hmm.
numbing ourselves to the effects of living a life that human beings were never intended to have in this artificial construct, right? I'm not saying nice things are bad. I used to have lots of nice things. I still do, right?
Hmm.
But if that's the goal, you got problems. You got, and potentially a big problem, because especially if you don't have anybody around you that can kind of read your situation and give you a new frame for your second half of life. Because things change totally. The game changes completely. The rules change. Kind of that Carl Jung, he
Hmm.
coined the term midlife crisis. And what that essentially is once you hit the age of 40, um, the real you, your real identity, the boy that got buried and, you know, kind of got put aside to create this character that sets about to do these certain things in life. The story starts to crumble, right? And so you either fall apart and let that real you appear, which is extraordinarily painful, and it's what I'm here to help men through. I don't know of anybody else doing that, right?
Yeah.
There's a
Well,
certain
most
way that,
people don't.
yeah, there's a
Yeah,
certain
most
way the
people
whole
don't.
thing, it, it, there is a frame like the A plus B equals C, the 7 steps to success, that whole thing goes away, right? But
Hmm.
there is a general frame of that the second half of life that this more meaningful, purposeful, real identity and life. There's a kind of a frame that it looks like, and if you're aware of that, if you know kind of what's going on, if you've got community around you that is sympathetic to that and that is not joining in the chorus with the rest of the world saying something's wrong with that guy, right? And the advice you're getting is get it together, man. Get what together?
Hmm.
Get what together? Your story. The story you've been telling yourself your whole freaking life. The story all of the rest of the world, especially in Western culture, has made an agreement that this is how life works. This is how life operates. And if you fall out of that, if you break that, kind of subconscious contract and agreement everybody's made, people don't like it, right? So you have to find a group that can kind of see through the whole thing, see you for who you really are, kind of understand where you're at in the process, help you discover yourself and what it is that you're supposed to be doing. You're in big trouble. Like there was nothing like that for me, and I was beyond big trouble, right? It became so painful, right? Everything working on that, I was making $2 million a year passively. I didn't have to get out of bed in the morning if I didn't want to, right? Oh, well, that's great. That sounds good, except for when you can't find that next thing that your whole life has just kind of come to you, right? A lot of your guys, if they're entrepreneurs, if they're high performers, success has always just kind of come. We had to put in the work, we had to do the personal development, we had to read all the books, we had to be around all the right people, we had to learn how the world works, develop our sales skills like you are an
Hmm.
expert in. Um, um, but then that stuff just kind of stops working quite as good. That superpower, that mojo. Get your
Hmm.
mojo back. That's kind of like one of my kind of sayings. Because most of these guys have lost it. Even if they're
Hmm.
still successful, they think people don't know. Everybody knows, right? That's why you have to continually be growing because if you stop, people are going to know,
Hmm.
right?
Well, yeah, it comes down to a few things you said here that make a lot of sense. One, what is success? Because we have a Western cultural idea of success, but that's
That's
not
right.
really success. Success can be defined how you make it. I have a friend who's exited from a $40 million company and he went through a divorce and went through a bunch of stuff. And he's going through a lot of shit right now. It's just not working good for him. I know people that make 80,000 a year might not look successful in the entrepreneurial world, but are happy, have a family, and are doing things they love to do. It comes down to first, we need to define what success is. Second, you're right with this. The mountaintops, and once you get there, There's nothing else there. It's the journey getting there and the development that really is what builds you along the way. And success itself, it's just a made up thing. Just because you had 2 million doesn't mean you were happy or fulfilled. What I think men need, and you're the expert here, so tell me if I'm wrong, men need purpose, they need a passion, and they need a plan, but they need to have a group of people around them to help guide them because for thousands of years, that's what we did. We went together to war in groups, we hunted in groups, we survived by being with other men. But now in our society, we have this look at me, I'm the best, I can't ask for help, and we
Self-made
need to
man,
change that.
the
Yeah.
self-made man. And the system has got skillfully, purposefully got us isolated, right?
Mhm.
The lone wolf. It's a meme online, right? The lone wolf. That's the one you got to watch out for. That's one, man, that's the one that is in the biggest trouble
Mhm.
of anyone. You talked about that first mountain. All those skills, all that strength that you're gaining on that first mountain, the whole point of that is to give you the strength and the power to survive the other side of it and the valley that lies in between that first mountain, that journey of success, of figuring out how the world works, how to get your way through it, and then that valley right there before that second mountain, which is there's a book actually called The Second Mountain by David something. It's one of the best books I ever read. If there's one takeaway, I could just say that and hang up, and everybody's got their value right there. Read that book. David Brooks, I think.
Mhm.
Um, and that second mountain is just kind of where the valley in between is where you lose that false self, right?
Mhm.
And then that second mountain, the second half of life, that's where you are discovering who you truly are, what you are truly ultimately here to do in this world. And it's the first mountain is about success. The second mountain is about it's first mountain's about you. The second mountain is about other people, right? And
Mhm.
ultimately, we find our greatest fulfillment in helping other people. We might be helping people on that first mountain. We almost assuredly are. I definitely was, but it wasn't why I woke up in the morning. I woke
Mhm.
up in the morning to be successful. I woke up in the morning to build a good life, right? And in order to do that, you have to serve other people. But it's a secondary thing,
Mhm.
right? And I was fine with that. As long as people were getting helped, great. But that doesn't work. That doesn't work once you get to a certain point. And you've got to make this switch in your head from sales first, service second to service first, sales second,
Yep.
purpose over profit. And
Mhm.
if you've moved, see, here's the problem. Joe. People don't know. People don't know when they've hit that valley. They don't know when this switch kind of they don't know what's going on. They're lost, they're confused. They don't understand why they feel so lonely, why nothing's working the way it used to work, why things that used to satisfy them are not satisfying them anymore, why they don't love what they're doing. It's extraordinarily disturbing and disenchanting, disconcerting. It's especially if you don't have anybody around you that can read your situation,
Mhm.
right? And say, okay, look, here's what's happening to you. I had no idea what was happening to me.
Yeah.
I didn't know what to freaking do. So what did I do? I just doubled up, doubled down, started grinding harder, working harder, trying to start more businesses, and nothing
Mhm.
I did worked. Right? And so for me, I had to lose everything in order to come back to my senses, in order to come back to my true identity, right?
Mhm.
As a son in my father's arms, perfectly content in this world, just waking up every day and saying, "Hey, what are we doing today?" You know what I mean? It's a better way to live. Picture when you were a kid, you woke up every day, you had no idea what you're going to do. It didn't matter. You knew you had parents that were going to take care of you and you're going to do whatever needed to be done that day, whether it was chores, whether it was something fun, whether it didn't matter.
Mhm.
Okay, well that's real life, right? It doesn't sound like it, but God is your father. You can choose to not believe that, but that doesn't make him any less your father. And he loves you. He's got a better way for you to live. And you need a guide to find it. That's the thing. I went from a mansion to living on the floor of my friend's vacant home. I've never heard that before. I've heard people losing it, losing they got successful and then they failed and whatever. I've never really heard of what I went through
Hmm.
from having everything that I have, flying private, I mean, you name it, to literal homelessness, not just driving around in my car. I didn't have a car. I didn't have a bike. What I had was a 7 year King Nebuchadnezzar moment where
Hmm.
God says, okay, you're giving me lip service that I'm the one blessing you, but really you think you're doing this. Let me show you what's actually happening. And what's actually happening is that God is carrying us along in His grace, and He's facilitating all this work that we're doing. He's giving us the power to make wealth. He's giving us the power to be successful. He's given us the power, this is my personal opinion and experience, to do absolutely everything that we do. But we don't know that. We think we're doing it. We think we're God. We want to be God. And once our God complex shows itself to be what it is, which is idolatry, it's nothingness. It's nothingness. We're a creation, right? We're creatures, which implies a creator. And that creator wants a relationship with you, and he wants to partner with you to create. And it's just a much better way to live.
Hmm.
Right.
Yeah. Well,
Um,
it sounds like you went through a whole, how do I put this? A lot of people I know, and I've gone through the same type of experiences where I was on top of the world. I was doing oil and gas investments. I was selling. I found out that they didn't have the wells weren't producing. So I left the job and I went to a job that wasn't paying stuff, driving Uber on food stamps, not to the point where I was homeless, but I went from like the mountaintop to the valley. And I had to get to that place where I realized that I need to have my focus on helping other people, not on just helping myself. And once that shifted, it changed because there's laws and principles. When God spoke into the world, he said, like, be. When he set things in motions, there's certain laws that whether you're a Christian or not, if you follow, it still works because they're his divine laws. Now, is there a difference between being blessed under God and in the world? Yes, I totally get where you're coming from that. But I think so many times people, especially successful people, try to find their purpose, their life in what they do instead of who they are. And it sounds to
mm,
me like you came to the moment where you had to figure out who really is Preston. Not Preston the businessman, not Preston the guy that flies first class, not Preston the guy that has 2 million in assets coming in a year or a month. I don't remember the exact number, but I'm just laying it out to that rock bottom moment so that
yeah,
God could flow through you to use you to help other people. But if you wouldn't have went through that experience, you would have been able to see the path to help other people. That's what I heard you say. Did I miss anything in that
sure.
that
No, you got it. I was lucky, fortunate enough to have that friend who let me stay at that house, and he also kind of let me strategically partner with him at a Christian co-working space where everybody was helping each other build their brands.
Mhm.
Everybody had one hand up, one hand down. Everybody was coaching someone and being coached, discipling someone, whatever you want to call it, mentoring
Mhm.
someone,
Yep.
being mentored. There were weekly Bible studies. There was everything that I needed there was community, basically. And community is what we need to facilitate the transfer from stage one to stage two life. Because normally, if we're suffering from a lack of purpose, a lot of times we're also suffering from a lack of love, right?
Mhm.
And love, while it sounds kind of cheesy, it is the answer. You
No,
know,
it's not cheesy.
the
It's
revelation
not
I
cheesy.
had, well, it always sounded cheesy to me for some reason until now, until I realized, until I was at rock bottom, and well, actually, right before then, when I was just like almost there, and I was still struggling, just struggling to keep that life together before I got divorced. I mean, I got lost my wife, lost my kids. Why? Because I had lost the energy to keep that story going.
Hmm.
right? And what I realized is that to come back, to make a comeback, to rebuild, the energy source is love. That's the energy source. That's the gasoline. Do you know what the gasoline is for guys in the first mountain? For guys who are just on the road to getting nicer cars, houses, and a bigger life, more influence, whatnot. The gasoline is freaking fear.
Hmm.
That is what's motivating you. If it's not love, it's fear. It's fear. It's pathology. That's what I mean. Think about the most successful entrepreneurs out there. They're freaking insane,
Hmm.
right? They're building big businesses and they have lots of nice stuff. And that's what the world system has been purposefully created to admire and to aspire to, right? Jesus had a word for it. He called it the love of money, right? Nothing wrong with nice stuff. There's a problem with living for it,
Hmm.
right?
With anything, you mentioned it too. Some people get into porn, some people get into fancy cars, some people get into new girlfriends, some people get into building their business. It's whatever you put before God and have as an idol is what will separate you from it. And I think a lot of times I would almost say you have to, maybe not to the level you went to, but I think everyone almost has to go through the same experiences of hitting that mountain and saying, this is what success is. And then you taste and you're like, this is not what they sold me. And then you have a
Mm.
choice. Are you going to just keep trying to go higher and deeper and self medicate? Or are you going to actually look and see who you are and what you want to be?
Or are you going to, you've already climbed the ladder of success. You hit it. You don't really need to do much more. Are you going to go find another ladder? Have you noticed, Joe, that this is a trend that I've seen? Because I think about this deeply. I'm trying to figure out the root cause of a lot of these guys' problems, of what caused everything to go wrong in my life. Have you noticed that once men hit a certain level of success, have you noticed that their interest switches to politics? Have you ever noticed that?
Hmm. Because it's power
Like
to them. Yeah.
all of a sudden they're super interested in world affairs, in government, and what they say to themselves in their head. I went through the same exact thing. I did the same thing. What they say to themselves in their head is, okay, the reason I became successful was so that I could change the world on this
Mhm.
kind of socio-political level. And all it is another story to keep you distracted from having to face your number one fear in life,
Mhm.
which is
When it
yourself.
sounds like I was going to say, it sounds like you're saying, and I agree with this, most men don't know how to be loved for who they are. They're only loved in their mind. And this can sound red pill, but a lot of men think this way. They're only loved in their mind for what they do and what they produce. But in reality, when you understand the love of God and you understand that God loved you first when you were at your worst, now you can come from a place of being loved. But also, most men have not been loved unconditionally at all by their wives, by their family, maybe by their mom, maybe not. And so it's a hard
Dude,
concept. So we're always seeking out who is it and what do I got to do to be valued and loved? And
you're
that's
spot
why we
on.
need the actual camp and the group and the band of brothers. Like I have five guys. None of them live, well, one lives about 30 minutes from me, but the rest of them don't. They live all over the US that I could call right now that I know would tell me the truth and love me for who I am, not for
Yeah.
what I do for them. And I think that's the biggest key. That's why they get into politics because they want to be seen and heard. That's why they do the business. That's why they're the captain of the football team because they have this innate, I want to be loved, but they don't know how to express it. So they try to earn it.
Yeah. Well, they want love and significance. And so what I've found is a way to scratch that significance itch in a healthy way while building themselves kind of out of that mess. Something just came to mind as you were talking, and I don't want to forget it. It was significant. Um, maybe it'll come to me. So what I did is um, I began building a personal brand,
Hmm.
right? I was one of the first people to have a personal brand. I've got videos on YouTube from 2007. And in the sense of like one of a lifestyle like Ty Lopez brand. I was literally introduced to Ty Lopez's house as the original Ty Lopez. Not that that means anything to me. Who cares? That's just what I did, right?
Hmm.
But I had lost the okay, let me rewind because I just thought of it. The problem with this whole thing is that when we go down Success Street, we start creating this world and attracting into our circle other people who are think the exact same way, right?
Hmm.
And everything else kind of gets pushed to the side. So what happens when you hit that spot where it just doesn't make sense anymore? You're trapped. Your whole world is people who admire what you're achieving, what you're doing, exactly what you said, Joe, even your wife and children. And so when that stops working, they don't understand it. They don't respect it, right?
Hmm.
Um, what I did to reclaim my identity, to figure out who I was, what God wanted me to do, to arrive at Comeback Kings, my ultimate purpose, my brand, my vocational identity, how I'm helping the world and providing for myself and restoring, being restored, is I started posting on social media every day. And it
Hmm.
all started with one post where I said, screw it. I had been off of social media for 5 years. I put up a video that said, who am I? Subtitle, I have no idea.
Hmm.
And then the video for 10 minutes, I just went about telling everybody who I was, what I'd accomplished, what I'd failed at, how I'd hurt people. And then I said, look, I need to make the biggest comeback of my life over the next year. I don't know how I'm going to do it. I don't know if I am going to be able to do it. But what I am going to do is post every single day on social media. Hold me accountable. You have to have accountability. I didn't have it at
Hmm.
that point. And just as a to kind of go back to that collab story, I've essentially replicated that experience that I had, but
Hmm.
online. That's what brought me back to life. So I've created it online. It's an opportunity for men to serve each other back to life, right? To tell their stories, to be healed. Um, so what happened is as I began posting every single day. And what did I post? I posted whatever God told me to post. I would wake up in the morning. I still do this. God, Father, what do you want me to tell the world today? Do you have a message for the world? Do you want to, here I am. I'll say whatever you want, right? And so a lot of times it would just be what I'm learning lately, and it would be like a super humble as opposed to this authoritative, like let me speak down to the world and tell them how to live life and act like I have it all together. It's like, no, I'm with you guys. I'm trying to figure things out. Here's what I'm learning today, right? And so what I learned through this process was that you don't really know what you know until you say it or write it. And so I would begin saying things every day. I didn't really know that I knew about myself and about the world, right? And I would create videos and then I would watch them. And I began seeing that person on the screen change.
Hmm.
It was the most incredible thing. It's the most incredible process. And there's science to actually back this up of why this works, right? I began hearing myself say certain things that would make me feel a certain way, would make the market react and engage in a certain way. And if you do that enough times, a pattern begins to emerge. You begin to emerge. Your message to the world begins to emerge, and you don't really have to force anything. The
Hmm.
world, the universe, God tells you who you are and what you are here to do, right? So
Hmm.
I've kind of systemized this to make it like not quite so chaotic, but that is what, in my experience, this has been the most effective personal development tool in the history of mankind. It's like it's incredible,
Yeah. No, it, well,
spectacular.
I think it's part of the process and the journey. Like I even think back to when I started doing videos because you said that, and in the beginning I would just talk. And what is it that I want to talk about today? And I still do it, and it's four or
Yeah.
5 years later. And it was
Yeah.
just I did it without any intent of
Yep.
any getting anything back. Like I was just a really good salesperson, so I would talk about sales sometimes, or I would talk about
Yep.
life, or waking up to a
Yes.
life that you want to live. No rules, meaning no rules compared to what society says. You're going to be a good person, but it's not like their rules of success. What do you want out of life? Who do you want to help? What do you want to do that day? And then there's even videos I've done like, look, you know what I'm going to do today? I'm going to break what the gurus say. I'm going to sit on the couch and watch football because I want to today. It's okay because I decide that today that's okay for me to do. That doesn't mean I don't do what I'm supposed to do to take care of my family and be the person I'm supposed to be. But I think so many times we get into the super successful, got to do this every day, grind camp, or the super manifest, I'm just going to let it happen camp. In reality, there's that balance.
Did you ever find yourself, as you were posting, Joe, did you ever find yourself talking to yourself and you
Mm-hmm.
didn't really know it? You create this video and you're like, wow, that was an incredible message for the world. But then as you watch it, you realize that that guy on the screen is actually talking to me.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm the guy on
Yeah,
the screen, and I'm
100%.
the guy on the screen. We're all telling our stories to the world. But if we do it the right way, it becomes extremely therapeutic. And this is how you build your confidence back up. This is how you build your self-esteem back up. And also on a spiritual world, but the whole, everything's spiritual. God's
Mm-hmm.
using everything to help us, to lead us, and to guide us. This just happens to be one of the most spectacular. I mean, it's one piece of the puzzle. We've created a safe space where men can tell their stories and kind of help each other. As we tell our stories, we're healing. The person who is hearing our story is healing. The guys who are speaking back into our lives and holding us accountable, that's a service from them. They're healing by doing that, right? It's like this big like cycle, right? I
Mm-hmm.
needed to make a comeback. So what did I do? I helped other men make a comeback.
Mm-hmm.
Right? What is it that you need right now? Help other people get that. You need it. You're not quite sure how to get it. Just start helping other people with whatever the pain is, whatever the thing is. Just start talking about it with other people. Start getting creative. Wow, how can I help other men, you know, figure out who they are, make a comeback, do whatever. It essentially facilitates what you're, I mean, I still do it to this day. Nobody ever comes back. Uh, we don't come back 100% until heaven. We're on life is one big comeback journey, right?
Yeah.
We're all trying to come back to what? To where we came from, Eden, paradise. We're all on a
Mm-hmm.
comeback trail, right? And so helping other men to find their way back to that innocence, to that boyhood innocence, to that joy, to that peace, to their father, the prodigal son. Most of the men out there grinding, the success gurus, they are the modern day prodigal sons. They just don't know it. And the world has flipped so far upside down that we think it's the other way around, right? We think it's the addict and the man who can't make it in this matrix, right?
Mm-hmm.
We think that's the prodigal son. No, that's the man on the way home to his father. The prodigal son is the man who is squandering his father's wealth. The wealth of what? The wealth of his spiritual being, the wealth of the gifts and the purpose that he's here to bring to this world by using them to facilitate their own happiness. Same thing the prodigal son did, right? And that's a parable that Jesus told in the Bible for anybody that doesn't know.
Yeah. Well, and it comes down to what's your life focus? What are you here to do, and what are you actually trying to accomplish? And are you
And
following your
why?
plan or God's plan? Yeah. What
And
what what's the purpose behind it? What
what's
what are
the
you looking to be? Who are you looking to become? And what is the actual intent? I listen to what not what they say, but what I feel and listen and hear from how they're talking and what they're doing. Like
Yeah.
I joke with my wife on this, and I read people for a living. Like I know if I like someone or don't like someone from the moment I meet them. Like
Mm.
they can say three words and I already know. And
Yeah.
that's because I've attuned to the fact, is this person trying to help someone or are they trying to take something from me? And
Mm.
if you can look at into the person and say, okay, cool, I know where they're at now. It doesn't mean that I cut them off. Sometimes it means like I just need to be the light so that they can see the way out of their darkness. And I think so many times we get so caught up in trying to take care of ourselves that we forget that we're here for a mission, a passion, a purpose, a plan. It's all in the fact of, are you serving God or are you serving man? That's what I've heard through this whole thing. Like you tried it on your own, it didn't work well. Then you had your epiphany, you had your rock bottom prodigal son moment. You've come back to God, and now you're just shining a light, not telling them what to do, just saying, "Hey, this is a way for you to get back into right relationship."
Yeah. And then the truth of the matter is that with my experience, I got to be kind of careful when I'm making those snap judgments because half the time I'm projecting,
Mhm.
right? Um, and um,
Joseph Graham show. Super excited today. I have Dr. Ruby Patterson
how
back.
do I,
That's my show.
how is that even possible? Um, um, and then also too, there's no such thing as 100% pure intention. That
True,
does that
100%.
doesn't exist, right? Mother Teresa, one of her best quotes, there's never been a good deed, there's never been one good deed in the history of mankind with 100% pure intention, 100% pure motive, right? So, you know, I put a post out the other day. I said, look, and I know that I'm talking to myself half the time. And I said, look, why are you posting on social media? Why? What's the reason? Are you trying to help people or are you trying to build your brand? And I said, if I'm being honest, I'm far from 100%. If I'm 60, 70% doing this to serve people, I'll be surprised. And that right there, I don't think you're going to find many people that would say something that makes themselves look bad, right?
You just
But
gave away a key. You
the
literally gave away a key
that's
why
right.
people buy, why people connect, why people would choose to be with you because they're not looking for 100% perfect. They're looking for someone that's authentic, that's
Yes.
giving, that's trying to help. I only wanted to mention that because if people were listening missed it, I didn't want them to miss that part.
Well,
But
that's 100,
that's
you're spot on, and it's what I was about to say. If you want to survive on social media, and you should be wanting to survive on social media, if you don't have a personal brand, you should have one. Follow Gary Vaynerchuk, and unless you think you're smarter than him, um,
no.
if you don't have a personal brand, you're about to be extinct. You're about to be a dinosaur.
Mhm.
You don't think you can be replaced? I promise you, you can and will be.
Yep.
What will not be replaced is you, right? So long as you're positioned properly. Personal brands, communities, people who facilitate connections. And I mean, unless you're going to start some sort of AI company, right?
But even then, you
And
need the connections.
sure. And what to your point, and where I was going with this as well, is the only people who are going to survive on the internet and beat the AI influencers, right? Are people who are extraordinarily painfully authentic and real and open. If you fail, tell the world. The posts that I do the best are posts when I'm freaking crying, right? Well, it doesn't happen often, but if I do, half the time I'm like, all right, screw it. Guys, this is what's going on. And those posts get the most engaged because people can relate to it. Everybody's suffering right now. Everybody is hurting. And if you go around life acting like that's not you, you are hurting the world. You are hurting yourself. You are putting up you are making, you're confusing everyone because
Mhm.
they think they should be like you and they're not, right? But what they're really saying is they think they should be what the story, the mask, your mask, how you're portraying yourself to the world as Mr. I got it all together. You don't. The more you think you do, the higher the likelihood you are going to get swatted down. I know this firsthand. I read all the books. I read over 1,000 books.
Hmm.
I had multiple mentors, the very best mentors I could find for every facet of life. I did all the work. Worked out 2 hours a day, did you name it. I had all the personal development. I checked all the boxes, right? And I gave lip service to the fact that God was getting all the glory, right?
Hmm.
I said that, but in my mind, I have conquered life. I had a
Hmm.
course that taught people this is how life works. And if you do all these things, you're going to be successful. How ridiculous is that? How ridiculous. Life's not that simple. Life's not that clear cut. Life is not linear. Life is freaking, it's
Hmm.
chaotic. There's something beautiful that comes out of it at the end, right? But putting out a story to the world that life goes like this and maybe a like this and like that,
Hmm.
you're not helping the overall. You're not doing anybody a service, right? Being authentic and ideally showing the world an overall successful trajectory in a holistic sense, giving the world a picture of redemption. The biggest service I'm doing to my kids right now is showing them a real life story of the resurrection of Jesus Christ. It's one thing to tell people that Jesus was the Son of God, that he died for our sins, rose again 3 days, and 3 days later ascended into heaven and has saved the world by simply believing that. That's the truth. That is how I originally went from nothing to everything in my mind. God was the one blessing me. He was the one leading me all up this first mountain of success for the purpose of pruning me and um, you know, preparing me for the real work, right? It's another thing altogether if I put my camera on and illustrate the resurrection process because the same road that Jesus took is the road he's asking us to take, right? Death, resurrection, glorification. If I show you that very messy process, if I show you redemption, that's what I'm in the process of showing the world, Joe,
Hmm.
is a
Well,
picture of
but that
redemption.
that's the thing that most people don't realize when it comes to Christianity. It's not the big billboards, the rock bands, and the
I can't
big
do it.
buildings. It's the authentic. They went house to house, person to person in community and fellowship. And you mentioned authenticity, and I love that as long as people don't use that as a vice either, because I've seen that happen too. There's always that balance of,
You can always take it too far. You can take
yeah,
everything too far.
yeah, but I like what you're saying here with the whole aspect of becoming who you're supposed to be, being completely real with people, and showing them a path because that's really the truth to success. Because there's a lot of successful people, and all they show is the highlight reel, and
Yeah.
highlight reels mean nothing because in today alone, I've gone through emotional roller coasters because I'm in sales, I'm in business, life happens. I've had three good calls and one call that I'm like, oh my gosh, am I going to have to deal with this again? Because
Mhm.
that's really what life is like. But most people say, oh, I had four calls today and it was great. That's not how that goes. It's
Mhm.
one of those things you have to understand who you are, what your purpose is, and who you're helping. At the end of the day, once you line that in and then you have your relationship with God and you're honest with where you're at with it, you're good. The problem is everyone wants to be seen and heard, but most people don't have a message to be seen and heard because they're just wanting to be seen and heard instead of impacting others for the good.
Yeah. You have to have a real story,
Yeah.
right? You have to have a real story that actually is something people will be interested in, right? So you do have to be out in the world and actively doing things and experiencing the ups and downs and reading all the books and talking to all the people. Those are all necessary things, right? So you actually have some sort of frame of reference for where the world's at and how to, you know, meet them where they're at, you know? Um, so that's it, man. That's what I'm doing.
No, no, I love it. Where can people find you?
So I used to be a hardcore marketer. I had 20 different funnels. We had $300,000 of ad spend going out a month. We were on radio, we were on CPA networks, we were on Google banners, and everything was automated. I never talked to anybody. I didn't even talk to my customer service people. I barely talked to my employees. I was living the internet marketer's dream. Set it and forget it. I actually did it. It actually is possible, right? Sustainable, I'm not so sure. What it
Mhm.
wasn't for me. And so now what I'm doing is all just working one-on-one with people. My Instagram is /Preston Ely, and if I can help you, I'm happy to do it.
No, I love that. As we land the plane and we close this episode out, is there anything else we didn't mention or that you wanted to leave our listeners with?
Um, a few people listening right now are hurting pretty badly, and they don't see a way out of it. God, God wants to rescue you. That's what I want to leave you with. God rescued me. I didn't do it. He rescued me. And he wants to do that for you too. You know, even though I'm there for guys and I'm showing them kind of what's happening and walking with them through it, God's the one God is the one who is putting their life back together. He's the one doing it, and he wants to do it for you too. That's it.
No, I love that. I love that. Thank you for being on, Preston. And like you said, find someone to talk with, to reach out to, get a band of brothers that can help you and surrender to God. Because at the end of the day, we have one life on this planet and your father loves you. So you might as well actually respond. Don't put rules on it. Just respond and see where it takes you. Because guess what? If he's real, he'll answer you. If he's not, then I'm wrong, but I know I'm not wrong. So just ask and
Mhm.
your door will open up. Until next time, go and be